Chapter 6, Section 1, Introduction. William McLean was about to sit down to lunch with a group of Confederate soldiers on July 18, 1861, when a cannonball ripped through his roof. It landed in the stew pot, scattering stew all over the kitchen. This was more than McLean had bargained for when he moved his family to a farm in the country. McLean had been a prosperous merchant in Alexandria, Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C. When he retired, he decided to move to the countryside for some peace and quiet. He bought a farm outside the small village of Manassas Junction, Virginia. The farm was comfortable and pleasant, with fields, woods, and a small stream called Bull Run. Unfortunately for McLean, Manassas was also the site of an important railroad junction. These rail lines made Manassas a strategic location in the Civil War, one that both the North and the South wanted to control. Since the shelling of Fort Sumter in April 1861, the North and the South had been in a state of war. However, there had been no major combat since that first engagement. Then, in mid-July, the two opposing armies gathered their forces near McLean's farm. 3 days after the cannonball landed in McLean's kitchen, the First Battle of Bull Run began. The fighting raged across McLean's land for hours, but by afternoon, the Union forces were in full retreat. In the Union Army, this embarrassing flight would be remembered as the Great Skedaddle. A year later, another battle took place on McLean's farm. At that point, McLean decided to leave Manassas and find a safer place to live. The McLean family relocated to the south in a small Virginian town called Appomattox Courthouse. McLean hoped that the town's remote location would keep the war away from his doorstep. But as you'll read later in this chapter, he did not get his wish. William McLean had one more important role to play in the Civil War.